Hey class, I wanted to answer, I think it was Tyler's question about Proust and Dalton and the theories and why it got named after Proust if it was Dalton's theory. I had to look this up a little bit to clarify for myself, but they each have their own theory, and that's part of what the confusion was. And the order it was given in our lessons was the opposite order from how they were developed. So the first one was the French chemist Proust, and he developed the law of definite proportions first, and that was in 1797. So he proposed this law saying water or any compound, so a compound is a combination of two elements, that any compound such as water or carbon dioxide or whatever else would always have the same number of proportions no matter where you created it. If it was water, it was always going to be 2 parts hydrogen to 1 part oxygen. Or if it was carbon dioxide, it was 2 parts oxygen to 1 part carbon, no matter what. So that was his theory, and that was Proust, and he's credited with that one. Based on his work, Dalton in 1803, and it wasn't published till a couple of years later, but he published the law of multiple proportions. And the law of multiple proportions said that you could combine 2 elements in different amounts, but they would still, those multiple proportions, basically, it would still be a proportionality between how much of it there was. And the math sounds confusing, but it's basically if you were saying carbon monoxide would have the equal amounts of carbon and oxygen, for example. But if you did carbon dioxide, the proportion of carbon to oxygen would change because there's twice as much oxygen. But that if you compared those proportions, you would come out with an even, with an integer. I'm trying to think of what, anyway, a small whole number. I think that's how they put it, was a small whole number. Essentially, what that was meaning is that you've got some small quantities of things that are combining. All that theory really led him to is to say that you've got atoms of things. There's a small, you can't divide it further, that combines together into these things. So the whole law of multiple proportionalities meant that you could have different amounts of those things combined together, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, whatever, but that they would still be proportions that were divisible and equal, not evil, equal amounts. So they come down to whole numbers, which means that you have some base unit of something. And that was the basis of his atomic theory. So Proust was the law of definite proportions, and Dalton was the law of multiple proportions, which actually came later. I hope that helps. Thanks. Good question.